All right. All right. So you're welcome, Mr. Charles. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate you taking your time to join me on this channel, Success
Right.
System with Johnson. For our viewers, you are welcome to Success Systems with Johnson, and I
Thank
have
you.
with me here Mr. Charles Beckley, and
Yeah.
I would ask him to introduce himself and just tell us briefly who is Charles Beckley.
Well, thank you very much for this opportunity. You know what, you said you called this success systems, and I find it interesting and humble that you find me to be a successful person, because I can tell you that every day is definitely a challenge. Every day, there are always, bumps along the road, and, it's just taking one step at a time. But thank you very much for this opportunity. So, I mean, to simply introduce myself as Charles Ayodele Gambo Chebuka Beckley. I'm a confused Nigerian, as you say, because I'm a mix of Yoruba, Igbo, and Hausa. So my dad is a mix of Yoruba and Hausa. My mom is Igbo. So I tend not to take any sides. And how I briefly explain myself is that, you know, um, I'm an immigrant to Canada who just came out here to make a name for his family. And really, that's my purpose. And the reason is because growing up as a young man, I was lucky to be born into a middle class family-ish, but we weren't necessarily rich. I wouldn't even say we were a middle class, but because my father had certain benefits at work, so I got the opportunity to, hang around some successful people. And when I, looked at the parents, I found that, they lived a certain kind of life. But looking at my father and my mom, man, they sacrificed a lot for us. So I know, when my dad and I in Lagos, when we traveled from Port Harcourt to Lagos to get my visa, at that time I was just about 15 years old because I came to Canada around when I was turning into 16 years old. And I remember my dad and we got into a bus, in Lagos. I think that would have been my third or fourth time in Lagos. And we got beat by the rain. It was a heavy rain. And yeah, I can never forget it. And when we were walking, to get the visa, I looked at one building and I saw someone's name on top of the building. It was a tall building. And I looked at it. I think it was at Denuga or something like that. And I looked at my dad and I told him, Daddy, one day, I'm going to have your name on top of there. And I never told him why I'll do that. But it's because I saw that, my parents sacrificed a lot for us, to be here, coming to Canada. My father literally sold what he had and borrowed money from a bunch of people. And he asked me to go pick up the money from the people so that, I could see what it took for him, to bring me to Canada. So, when you ask who am I just simply explain to myself, I'm a young man who believes in God. I'm trying to do his best. And most importantly, just trying to make the name for my dad and my mom, because I know that they didn't have the opportunity to do that for themselves. If you look at great names like the Richardsons, if you've been to the Richardson building in Winnipeg, if you go there, there's a note they write about the main character in the Richardson family. But he's really not the one that's out there right now representing the family. But you always find that there's one person that gave up and sacrificed a lot, for the family name. And I find that to be my dad and my mom. So simply that's who I am. Just trying to make a name, cover up for the sacrifices that my dad and my mom had given to us.
Wow.
My siblings. Yeah.
Wow, that's deep. I know I've known you for quite some years now, but I've not had that part of your story. I mean, that is very deep. I mean, it's a lot of, you see a lot of people around, and you really can't tell what they have been through or what they've gone through. So I think having conversations like this would always unleash some other part of people that we don't normally see. I mean, this is very profound. And thank you so much for that. And like I said, the second question, I think you have answered it. I was going to ask, what brought you to Canada? But I would believe that you came in as a student. So can you tell us, when you came into Canada, what did you study in school, and how was school life for you generally?
You know what, when I came into Canada, at 16 years old, I can never forget, I had a group of friends that came in with me, and we're still friends to this day. We came in through one of those agents in Nigeria, Tawushe is his name. And, coming here, I had dreams, to become something. And, I went through the cycle in life, especially as a 16-year-old kid with a little bit of money, not really understanding the value of money, just in an account. So I went through my ups and downs. I started off studying computer science after my first year in I think it was a Java class. I knew that it wasn't for me. But one thing, and I have to be honest to everyone, I was never the smartest person in class. But one thing I knew how to do is gather the smartest people and hang out with them. So that was my philosophy, because I understood that I wasn't a book guy, but I was a relationship kind of guy. So I would be the one to set up the best groups. Like after the first week, second week of class, I identify the best people in the class. I make sure they're from different nationalities. And I approach them and say, hey, I'm trying to set up a study group. And that's really what helped me pass through even computer science. And after that, I moved to mathematics. I studied mathematics for 3 years. It was very tough, but, I scaled through. But when I took my first economics class, it's like everything that I didn't understand in this world made sense to me. So that's how I ended up studying in economics. And given the fact that I studied mathematics for 3 years, to like a deeper level of math, it really helped me out in economics. And that was the first time I ever thought that I was smart in my life. Because I'm not shy to say this, I've had all the grades. I've had all the grades, but taking my first economics class was when I got a letter from the department saying, hey, we think you should study economics, because I just, it just worked. So yeah, and it took me 3 years to determine, that economics was my thing. So what I'm trying to say is that my first 2 years in school were really bad. And that's why I think this is a great story for people, because even if you start off roughly, doesn't mean that you end up poorly, right? So, my first 2.5 years were bad, but, I eventually found something that I was naturally good at, that I could express myself, and it made sense to me. And, I ended up taking economics, getting my grades up. Prior to my third year, I never even had a B in class. I was always a C to F. That was it for me. But, from when I started economics, I got my first B, and then I got an A, and I got an A+ that I didn't know was possible. And from there, I was able to, focus on education, and take it on from there. Shortly once after I graduated, and prior to graduation, luckily for me, I got into insurance somehow. Someone thought I'll be good at insurance. So basically, while I got into insurance prior to graduating, I started my master's in economics at the same university, at the University of Winnipeg. So that was my education for me, and economics has just been a natural kind of science for me to understand.
Wow, this is fantastic. What I'm getting out of what you have just shared now is that it doesn't matter where you start from. It doesn't matter your background. It doesn't matter where how you started off. What matters is you can try a lot of things. Just know what you are good at, and then follow it. In your own case, you have to try a few things, and then once you got into economics, everything just made sense, and then you started having your good grades and stuff like that. So that is, to me, it implies that until you're able to put a round peg in a round hole, a lot of people they will be struggling. It'll be a life of struggle. So so that's fantastic to me. Fantastic. That's good. It's good to know that sometimes you have to try a few things up before we are able to excel in some of them. Yeah, thank you so much for that. So the other thing I was going to ask you is this. as how would you describe the word success? Let me start off from there. What is success to you as a person?
Success, I guess because success is subjective. I'll say for me as a person, success is being able to write down a list of goals and crossing them out, no matter how little they are. Because folks like to look at life in a from a long perspective, and some people are short term, right? So just being able to aim for something and achieve a step towards it, I think it's success. So what that means is that success is not permanent. If in my own perspective, I think you constantly have to improve. You have to aim for things, and it doesn't have to be aim for physical things or achievements. It could be personal development. It could be your relationship with God. Whatever it is, it's just my own definition of success, having that list and crossing the items out.
So invariably, you are saying that success doesn't have to be something gigantic. Yeah. Might be as simple as, okay, I want to be running 5 minutes a day, and then I'm doing that 5 minutes. Okay, today is Sunday, I've run 5 minutes, I cross it out. Yeah, tomorrow is Monday, I'm able to run 5 minutes, I cross it out. So it doesn't have to be something gigantic. It might be something very very simple, as long as you are able to write it down and achieve them. So now, does that mean that it's also proper for anyone to celebrate their small success? Is that what you are trying to say?
I think I'm trying to say that sometimes it's tough. There are different type of personalities. There's people that are really tough on themselves, and I think I find that I'm one of those people. It's like, okay, yeah, this is good, but great, I need to look at the next thing. So yes, it's important to, celebrate your success. And, I'm still trying to learn how to do that. However it means to celebrate the success. Does that mean taking myself to treat myself to a treat? Who knows?
I mean, and to be kind with you, I mean, I'm also in that shoes of not celebrating my wins enough. Right, we have no matter. So I'm just like you. I'm trying to celebrate my small wins. Let me put it that way. So celebrating our small wins, my understanding is this: when we celebrate our small wins, it's kind of gives us the momentum to follow after the big ones, because it's like momentum. So you have this one. Say for example, if that small win is just $100 worth, right? Okay. You're able to crush that $100 worth. You celebrate, oh yeah, you are doing great. And then you move on to the 200, and then yeah. By the time you wouldn't know when you're moving on to the 1 million worth of success. So I think that is good, and we are still working on it. So now,
you bet.
As somebody who has risen to a certain level in the corporate world, so for our viewers, if I don't know, I will tell you now a few things about Charles before he answers this question. Now, I'm going to tell you a few things about Charles before he answers this question. Now, number one is that Charles has risen to about the top of his career. I mean, he's done so well. For somebody to be the vice president, account executive in a top company, it's no joke. For somebody to be a vice president, a client executive, for construction and professional liability, it's no joke. So let me ask you, what factors have been responsible for your success in the corporate world?
I mean, aside from putting myself into the hands of God, I think I would say looking over the little things. Just looking over certain things, just brushing them off your shoulder. Don't get easily slighted, but most importantly, work, have certain values that you stick to, because that kind of gives you integrity, because at the end of the day, our integrity and our name goes a long way, so having values that you stand by, eventually helps you to gain some sort of integrity. And by doing so, you're going to face, various challenges in life. So I think one thing that's important is to, number one, to understand that you need to overlook certain things, literally, and not keep them in mind, but just overlook them and understand that, the obstacle is the way. That challenge is actually the way out. And you know what, time and time again, life has shown that to me. So that's kind of, I guess that's a simple way to put it. I don't think I have any technical thing to say, just learning how to get over little things.
So now, what I'm getting from what you have just said now are the factors that have been responsible for your success thus far. Is number one, getting over little things. Don't get sucked up into things that shouldn't bother you. Number two is also knowing that obstacle is the way.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of makes sense to me, because the level of the problem you are able to solve will determine how high you can go.
Yeah.
So as somebody who had risen to the position of vice president, I can only guess that you have actually surmounted huge obstacles along the way.
Till right now. Right now. As of right now. Yeah, you're gonna deal, and it just gets bigger all the time. But because you've dealt with the last one and you are able to shrug it off your shoulder, the next one is just going to be, you just find that you're less responsive to issue. When there's an issue, you're more calm. And when you're calm, because you're not too bothered about it, you can think about the problem and logically deal with the situation rather than react to the situation.
You said something there, which kind of tied to what with the other question I asked, in that because you have dealt with certain huge obstacle, when you face another one, even now I've faced this before, so I can do it again. So the momentum will spring up, and then you'll be able to face the other challenge or the obstacle and also crush it. Fantastic, fantastic. So it means that if I am a young, new, freshly baked graduate, for example, now maybe out of University of Manitoba, out of University of Winnipeg, or any university at all, I shouldn't be afraid of obstacles, because these are the ladder to my lifting and to my getting to the upper echelon of my career. Yes, and talking about upper echelon of my career, you have developed that level of top echelon of your career corporately. Yeah. How did you do that? Can you share with the viewers how you were able to do that, to get to the top echelon of your career?
People. You have to respect people. You have to respect each and every one. Because you never know where you run into someone next time. I mean, with that being said, you have to be able to stand your ground, because, as they say, the nicest guy comes last, and to a point that's true. So while you're nice, you also have to be able to be flexible while standing your ground. I don't know if that makes sense. So you stand your ground, but you should be flexible and be very respectful to people. I think, that's a key thing, because people are going to help you along the way. I think it's also important for one to learn how to work with difficult people. You have to learn how to work in chaos. You have to learn how to, even if you feel that you're getting a vibe from someone or a group of people that they do not like you, you should actually learn how to embrace it. And, you just tend to work, deal with all sorts of things and just come out of it, with a positive mental attitude. And at the end of the day, still being able to look, your opposition in the eye, smile at them. Perhaps if they are open to shaking hands and moving on. But the most important thing is do not forget the importance of people in what you do, because I find that some people tend to be very biased towards a certain group of people and culture. They might not be open, but you have to be very open. Even to those that don't show you love, you have to be open. You have to try and show them that there's another way to live, and I think really that's it, because you're definitely going to run into challenges on the daily. And you understand that there's some key relationships that you have to hold on to tight. There's some relationships that you do not fiddle around with, because some relationships will be your pillars. They will speak up for you when there's no one there to speak up for you. So I think that would be kind of a general summary of my own experience and what it takes to kind of, deal at a somewhat higher business level.
Thank you for that. And as a follow-up, I'm asking this on behalf of some of my followers. A lot of my followers are still in the university. A lot of them are still trying to graduate from the university. So I assume I'm a young boy or a young girl who is either in my final year, final semester, or in my penultimate year in university. What would be your advice to me to prepare for the corporate world without compromising my standards or my integrity? What would you tell me? What are the things that I need to be doing? Let me break it down. So let's say, what are the things I need to be doing while in school now? What are the things I need to be watching out for, be outside of school? And how can I possibly prepare for the corporate world? In this, we know that the world currently is highly competitive. What are some of the competitive advantages that I can bring to the marketplace for me to be able to challenge for good position for myself and make a good name for myself too, just like you?
Okay, well, thank you for that. You know what? We are lucky to be in Canada. There's so many reasons why we are, but one of the reasons I'm going to point out is because there's almost an association for everything in Canada. I tell you, there's probably an association for trees, association for road view, anything you want, there's an association for it. And all these associations are filled with people that are looking to meet new people and are seeking for help, people that are willing to give their time. So I would say no matter wherever you are in school, whether you're in your first year or to your fourth year, if you have an idea of what it is you want to do in the future, you can start attending associations here and there, volunteering, because at the end of the day, your relationships are essential and critical to your success and in the business world, those relationships. So you want to start building those relationships way ahead of your completion of your university education. Like, for example, speaking for myself, right from before I came to Canada, I always knew I wanted to be in real estate. Like, I knew this. So there are certain days, in my first, and I think I just started in my second year, I would literally dress up like I dressing up to go to church, and I'll attend real estate events, Yeah, and there sometimes it was so bad that I couldn't even afford the fare to go there, because those days were tough financially. But I started attending real estate events right from when I didn't even have an idea of what real estate was, but because I just felt like this is what I really wanted to do, in the future. So, that leading into something, I ran into people that were into insurance, and different types of businesses. And, and that's how everything just slowly materialized for me. So my key advice is getting involved, not just within the university, but outside the university. Get outside that box and, get involved in various associations. You're going to learn a lot because speaking, especially for international folks, we're competing with people that have been here for generations. So whatever it is they are in, it's a lifestyle for them, right? But for us, we're coming from outside the box into the box. So if you get stuck in university and, with lifestyle within the university, you're only going to be learning about the real world when you come out of university. But if you expose yourself earlier, prior to your graduation, you will learn a lot, outside education. You learn a lot about the society, how they behave, what they like, what they don't like, how business people behave, certain things. You're going to learn a lot. So you find that, by the time you graduate from university, you're a bit, ahead of your peers. Just for example, by the time you meet an average 18-year Caucasian is a handyman, is a great golf player, has great relationships from, their great-grandparents, has inheritances, like really. So you coming out from school and competing with these folks, I mean, I don't call it competing, but technically for some people it is, right? Yeah. So they are so exposed. So you need to, right from when you get into university, while you're focusing, in your school, you have to get outside there and mingle with other, more experienced people in different facets in the, in the community to learn about them and how they do things.
Thank you so much. I mean, to me now, you are already giving us a recipe for success outside of the university. Now, the point I'm getting out from what you are saying is that don't just get stuck with your schoolwork alone. Attend programs outside of the school environment. Meet with people, engage, know the lexicon in the business world.
Yes. Yes.
Understand? Yes. I'm talking about that. I was going to ask you a different question, but I'm going to jump at this now. I noticed that lately because you talked about golf. Lately, I've been seeing you in different golf courses, going to play golf. I mean, I was like, is there anything about golf and business that you want to share with our listeners?
Yeah. So, think about it. Business people are so busy. They're so busy. They're very, very busy men, especially CEOs and CFOs. They're very busy, but most of them like golf, right? And really, that's where they spend their leisure time, because outside business and work, it's family. So the only time they get to have leisure time is on the golf course. So, I mean, I feel like, to achieve a certain level of success in business, you have to learn on how to get personal with, the executives. You have to learn the art of having people open up to you personally. That's because then it builds another level of trust between you and them, right? So I found that, because I've gone through, a cycle. I mean, you talked about my career, reaching the echelon. That was just in Manitoba. I've gone up and I've come down, so I had to go through this to realize that, man, if you don't start golfing, you're not going to get the attention of certain people, because they're not going to give you their time. They're not. But if you want to really have a personal time with someone, go golfing with them. And I mean, on average, if you're a great golfer, a 9-hole will take you about an hour, an hour and a half. Some say an hour and a half. For 18 holes, it's going to take you 3 to 4 hours. So think about sitting with someone for 4 hours.
Wow. I better start learning how to golf now.
Well, it depends on who you're trying to talk to, right?
Because it's definitely for you to operate at certain level in the business world, just like you said, you have to learn what they do and be able to do it. So at that point, I mean, just think of it. You said, okay, for the 18 hole, you're going to spend like 2 to 3 hours. These 3 hours that nobody can say, okay, come and meet me and let us spend 3 hours. But within the time where you are just your leisure, you are going to talk business. There are going to be nuggets that will be shared with you. There will be ideas that you can pick, and then you can develop and bring to them later. Say, okay, what based on what we discussed last time, this is like a proposal and things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I better start golfing right now. I mean,
no, honestly, Eric, and honestly, one good thing is that when you golf well, they will take you as family, because when you can, they see improvement and you can just golf, it makes it even more interesting. I was just in Manitoba the other day, and I was playing with, in our group, we're a group of 4. I knew 2 of them, but the third man I didn't know, and he's way older than all of us. He had retired as the head of road maintenance in either the city of Winnipeg or province of Manitoba. So he oversaw that. So I could tell, first, when the 2 guys introduced me, I could feel, a bit of some hesitation to open up. But by the time we went to the first 2-3 holes, he started calling me, "Hey partner, how are you doing?" So you get where I'm coming from. So that quickly, open, before, by the end of the day, I'm saying, "Hey, you know what? I know you're retired, but my clients are road builders. Anytime I run into any technical issue, or if I'm trying to think outside the box, can I reach out to you?" Like, of course, take my number. Here's my personal number. Call me anytime. So there's that can get people to open up to you.
Invariably, it means that there are certain doors that might not open up to you until you get to a certain area where people are just relaxed, where they are a bit vulnerable, kind of. I mean, they are relaxed. They are not, when you are in the office, you can be very, okay, but when you are in the golf course, everybody is a player, and then you express yourself. Wow, that's good. That's good. Now, talking about leadership. I know, I think about 2 or 3 years ago, you were the president of the Alumni Association at University of Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Can you share with us your experience and how your experience as being the leader of the association? I mean, I know that is huge responsibility for you. So how were you able to cope? What were your takeaway from that during your tenure?
First, I have to point out that's the most difficult thing I've ever done. Just because, I'll tell you this: the day I was, I was appointed, I was voted in. I met a bunch of people, and I was excited. I was like, hey, guess what? I got, voted as the president of the association, and a gentleman turned to me and was like, "No, that's supposed to be for older people." At first, I took a slide on that. I'm like, why would he say that? But by the time I finished that experience, I'm like, maybe this guy may have been right, because honestly, I mean, the majority of the folks in the council there were folks that had reached the pinnacle of their career, that had achieved everything they want in life, and they're just there to give back in various ways, and they found that. So, presiding over a meeting with folks like that, you will be surprised at what those people do. And I'm not the most formal person, just because of how I live life in high school, whatever. So I'm more of an informal guy in whatever I do, whether it be in the boardroom, everywhere. I'm very informal. So I'm telling you, they really tuned me up. They're really good. They tuned me up, because I made so many errors. I reacted once, it was tough. But here's the thing: as soon as I identified the toughest people to me in that council, I ensured that they were my left and right people. I made sure they sat right beside me. I'm like, no, you got to see here. Because I'm like, well, this is exactly what I need. This is a tough love. But, above all, I think my takeaway there is as a leader, you have to appreciate everyone's gifts, skills, talents, and abilities. Because that's what it takes to be a leader. As a leader, being a leader doesn't mean you're the best there. No, you're just there to coordinate, to come up with a goal with a group of people. You're just a coordinator. You're not at the top of nothing. In my own opinion, that's what I've gotten out of this. So you have to learn how to respect people, because you're going to run into different characters, how they like to do things, how they want to be spoken to. You're going to learn that, and especially with highly educated people, who have, sat down with the most powerful people across the globe. You're going to learn a lot. But I think most importantly, it's, understanding that as a leader, you're not the best of the group, but you're working with great people and you're there to achieve a common goal. You're going to run into a position all the time. You have to learn how to accept opposition, embrace it, and evolve, and and transform yourself from the critics, from what the critics have said to you. So I think that's it. I wouldn't say I achieved the greatest things there, because it was a tough spot for me. I had never been there. So there's definitely a lot of things that I would have done better. But I think it was a great opportunity for me to understand how things are done on a higher level, especially when you're not being paid for it. But there's a huge expectation from you. So I definitely, if I had the opportunity to do that again, I'll definitely correct myself on a lot of things.
Wow,
but great. I think it was a great opportunity for me. They really tuned me up for sure.
Well, so just like a quick question now. How many were the alumni that you presided over? How many were they?
So, at some points, our alumni council, right? The council was made up of somewhere between 14 and 22 people. So at some point, I think during my own tenure, we had the most people on the alumni.
Wow.
Year council, to be specific.
Okay.
So yeah, it wasn't, and to be honest with you, I'm not proud to say this, but at the end of that experience, I started having anxieties because, man, I would tell you, I wake up in the morning, I'm trying to, based on the meeting, the processes, I have to address all these people, ensuring that, as the president, you're presiding over a meeting, so you're coordinating every aspect of, what the alumni council is trying to achieve for the council. And, you have people with various opinions. So you have to, learn how to sometimes learn how to sit on the fence and not take sides, and kind of, be more of a director and a coordinator rather than trying to, I wouldn't say director, rather than directing people on what to do, more so coordinating people.
Okay, now, I also, now this, I know this is going to be a positive one. I know that you gave either a talk or a speech during one of the convocations during the How do you feel about that?
It was great. It was great. It was great. I mean, but I'll tell you this. I give credit to the folks that helped me with my speech writing, because everyone has their skills and talents. I can definitely speak, but I need people to help me, curate the words in a nice way. So, my shout out to those folks out there that, helped me out. Yeah, they did great.
Yeah, I listened to that speech, and that was great. Yeah, I was like, wow, this is great. Me too.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I listened to it. It was great. It was a great speech. I listened to it. I'm not sure if I sent you a text to that effect. I'm not sure, but I know I listened to it, and it was great. It was a great speech. That was a good one.
Thank you. Thank you.
I know it was. When I say something like that, is my brother talking to millions of people who will watch that particular speech, because it was on the convocation of a major university in the country, right? So that was very great. Now, I two more questions before we wrap up. Now, number one is that, have you ever failed before? If the answer is yes, how has failure helped you to succeed?
Oh yeah. The most recent event in my life was the biggest failure in my life.
Wow.
Yeah. That's I mean, hence that's why I'm not in Manitoba right now. But I had to fail in order to elevate into another phase of or dimension of operation. I think that's how I'll put it. I mean, I want to always say, when it comes to doing my job, you can count on me. That's for sure. No matter what, if there's anything, you can count on me when it comes to, work and business. But, that was the first time in my life I've ever been fired, like literally been fired,
wow.
And it was a surprise because I just, I'd gotten the largest client, in Manitoba, the largest client I could ever get, and it was me and my boss that worked on this client together. It was his lead, but I was the one, he had this lead for an X amount of time. He had no success with it. So it was like, Charles, give it a try. And right from there, we took it together from start to the finish. And, here I was being excited. And then I was in a position, we learn in life where I had a difference in opinion on how to handle this client. So I have my boss telling me exactly what he wants done and me telling him exactly how I think it should be done, because that's how our business is. Our business is about your reputation. So, our business is, you may be at a brokerage forever. You may go to different places. So sometimes you have loyal clients that follow you. I've left Manitoba to Calgary, and I've still have clients that say, "Hey, Charles, wherever you go, that's where we're going." But we had a difference in opinion. Perhaps if I had behaved a certain kind of way, perhaps I may have not been fired. But I stood I put my heels to the ground, though I reacted, and that's the disadvantage of reacting rather than being always in control and composing yourself. So, I had just come back from on vacation in Nigeria. I just came back from Nigeria. I was excited to be back, and I got into the office, and they gave me my first day to just settle down. And the next day, they just say, "Hey, come into the office," with a smile on their face. It's like, "Hey, guess what? Today is going to be your last day here." Hey, with a smile. And they definitely gave it to me. Like, there are other people they fired for non-performance, and they compensated them handsomely, but they made sure, when someone is trying to show you that I'm the boss and I'm going to show you how, I tell people I've seen the dark world of our, when someone wants to show you that, what, I'm going to deal with you. So they made sure, they give it to me. Got the worst compensation ever, but I took it with a grain of salt. A couple weeks later, I decided to travel just to, rather than fight it or want to go to court or all these things. So, and to me, it was like, well, I've worked for, first of all, the largest brokerage in Manitoba. In my mind at the time, as a VP of a construction department, and not only have I done that in a global company in the same province, I had done that with a national company where, I got into it with my boss and I got fired. So in my mind, I was like, I don't think I have anything to do in Manitoba, right? Else. So I had to think of a way, to get back up. And that's how I found myself, further down west in Alberta. But that was definitely the biggest failure I've ever had. But what I'll say is that that has helped me in two ways. Number one, it is giving me the opportunity to come to a place, in a province whereby, oh my God, I didn't know the value of my skill till I got here. Wow. And I have, I'm somewhat of a consultant now, even within my company. When it's construction, at least in Calgary, it's not passing without my name, without me not being involved. And it's a great feeling when you see that, even on the large and most complex stuff, someone thinks about you and say, you know what, we need to get this guy involved. And secondly, I mean, I run a little real estate business in Manitoba. So, you know, going back to my first point about, you know, making a name for my family, specifically my dad and my mom, I think it gave me the opportunity to get out of Manitoba. You know, am I just trying to make that name in one province, or am I trying to do this nationally? So it has given me, I've gone through, you know, lots of difficulties, you know, handling my business while not presently being there. You're going to learn how to work with people, you know, because you're going to have different people that are providing you services. You have to coordinate them. You know, you have to make sure things are done properly. And there are going to be issues you're going to learn. Even when you're paying someone, you're going to learn how to respect them, even when they make a huge mistake. So it's teaching me now how to, okay, that means if I do this from a distance from Manitoba, perhaps if I'm able to establish a business in Calgary and perhaps in Vancouver and perhaps in Ontario and Toronto, that means I'm now learning how to, you know, coordinate business from a distance.
Wow.
So that, I think those are the two greatest takeaways from my downfall. It was a great downfall for sure.
Oh, that's great. I mean, somebody said failure is a pathway to success, and I think that is exactly what you have demonstrated. Because, like you have mentioned now, going to Calgary has also made you say that there are some values and skills that you have that were not properly developed or appreciated. Now you are in a province where that has been spotted, and now you are like a golden fish in a river and doing great. I mean, I'm very happy for you. Thank God for you for making that way for you. That's great. Now, I mean, we've talked about so many things. You have shared with us your life journey. You have shared with us your successes and some of your failures and how you have bounced back on that. And I really appreciate your time so far. So on a final note, what are some of your final thoughts that you want people to take away? What are the things that you want to share? Maybe I've not asked them in question, but just let us know what are some of the things that you want to share with the listeners. And the final
I think it's just simple that we should all not forget that we're here to live life, you know. So just make sure, you know, and you can't live life without people. So you make sure you love and respect everyone. I mean, do not be shy to say how you feel, but in a respectful way. And don't forget that without people, you cannot be successful. You just can't. You know, I think that's what it boils down to, because most times, you know, we feel that, no, I'm just going to be in my own world and do my thing. But definitely, if you want to be successful in whatever it is, you know, you need people. You definitely need people. You know, you're going to get to a level where you're going to need people to support you from, you know, behind wherever it is. And yeah, without people, you just can't, man. You can't.
Wow. It's been a wonderful time with you, Mr. Charles Beckley. I really appreciate your time. I know it's you are a very busy business person, so I really appreciate you just creating this time for us and let us glean from your wealth of experience, because things that have worked for you and things that you also learned from. Thank you so much for your time, and I wish you all of the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Have a good day.
You too, bye.
All right. Ciao.